Hello and welcome to Simsbury Public Library. I am Jenna Mayotte. I am the Business Resource Center Coordinator and Reference Librarian in our Business Center upstairs. I've been here since about March, so I'm still a little bit new planning these programs and things. So it's so nice to see all these nice faces out tonight. Thank you for coming. Tonight we're here to learn about achieving our goals and acting now to achieve them. Action. It's all about action. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Peter Winiarski. Pete is a business transformation expert and business consultant and the founder and president of Win Enterprises LLC, a firm which helps business leaders achieve and sustain transformational results. He's a goal achievement expert, a skilled speaker, a master results coach, which I really need to talk more about that. Master results, that sounds incredible. And is the author of the #1 international best-selling book, Act Now, a daily action log for achieving your goals in 90 days. He's here to introduce us to the principles from Act Now and share the basics of goal setting and taking all 3 types of action to achieve your goals in 90 days. So please welcome Pete Winiarski.
How's it going?
Good.
Thanks for coming out. It's nighttime.
Yes, it is.
What would you rather be doing? Tell the truth.
Reading.
Reading a book? Oh, there is a nice thing to do in the evening. I'm really glad you're here because I love learning. I've been to a lot of programs at the library here. You know, I go to seminars a lot. I fly on airplanes to go to seminars, so it's always nice to have one here in town. How many of you have been to a Wednesday night program before, ever? Good, good. So as Jenna was pointing out, there's a lot of great programs that historically we've done at the library here. We want to continue to do that. So take her request very seriously about filling in the information because it will help the community here to say, here's what we want, here's what we need. And Jenna can help to put that together. So this is great. Thank you for having me here today. Let's make sure this thing's working. Come on, there we go. All right. So before we get really rolling, what I want to do, everyone I think has one of these on their chair. And the way it works is we're just going to start opening it up and on the left-hand side. So do yourself a favor, especially if you accidentally leave it on the floor because you had to get up and go get some cookies. We want to know whose it is. So go ahead and write your name on there. And under notes, we're going to do a couple things and start filling in some of the blanks in here. But the first thing I want you to do, there are 2 resources. I'll talk about them later, but I want you to write them down now while I'm thinking of it, because I'm really going to get going here and I might forget. So the first one is dailyactionlog.com/webinar. WEBINAR, so dailyactionlog.com/webinar. And the second one is dailyactionlog.com/action-strategies. So I will tell you more about them, but before I forget, I want to make sure those are in there for you. So let's just start with a sense of where everyone's at. Give me an idea. Raise your hand, for example, if you live here in town. Okay, about half the room, which means half of the room. Raise your hand if you don't live in town. Pretty cool, right? Half and half. Very good. How about who's driven the furthest to get here? Let's try that one. I know there's at least one Farmington. Where are you? New Britain?
Torrington.
Where was that?
Torrington.
Torrington. That might be the winner. I thought you said Boston. Good. Thank you for coming out. This is perfect. How many of you are entrepreneurs? You have your own business. Okay, maybe a third. That's good. How many of you are business leaders? You're a supervisor or a manager or an executive somewhere? Okay, a handful. How many of you are really excited about some hobbies that you are just totally passionate about? Okay, good. A lot more of you. How many of you like the number when you step on the scale? No hand? All right, there's one. Very good, two. Well, I don't know what your scale says when you step on it. Maybe it says ouch.
I don't know. Money. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm doing is I'm trying to hit some areas here, where people tend to set different goals. And the reason I threw the weight one in is because we all have a weight. Many of us don't like it, so we can set a goal to have a different weight. That's how that works. How many of you like the level of your financial status today? Okay, a couple hands, that's good. Thank you. Thank you, the rest of you, for being honest. So does that mean the rest of you want to change it? Raise your hand if that's true. Okay, anybody not raise their hand? Kind of confused? So all of these are areas that we can change our results in. And so the way we're going to get started is I want you to just take a few minutes, and in that notes section there, I want you to write down some things that you dream about. What are the things that you just absolutely want to achieve? If everything was just the way your life was working perfectly and you managed to get the results that you wanted to get, what is it that you would have? What are your aspirations, your hopes, your dreams, your wishes? And go ahead and write some of them down. This is a good spot for you to just drop any reservations that you have. See what comes up. That little voice talks to you and says, that's not a good one. Ignore the voice and write it down anyways. Yeah, go ahead.
Continued good health.
Continued good health. Is that interesting to anyone else? Yeah, super. Good. All right, anything else?
More time with family.
More time with family. Very good. Is that interesting to anyone else?
Sure.
Cool. All right, what else? Yeah, in the back.
Stop being a lazy writer.
Ah, okay, lazy writer.
Yeah.
Whose voice is that telling you you were a lazy writer?
Mine.
Your
mine,
own.
Hers.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Plenty. There's plenty.
You brought your friend to tell you. That's right. That's how it happens. Sometimes that's an accountability partner. Other times it's a nag.
No.
But they work, right? Okay. So it sounds like you have a goal to write something, book, articles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you.
Ideas aren't the issue. It's the execution.
Familiar with that? All right, you had one.
Learn to cook better.
Learn to cook better. Fantastic. Very good. One over here.
Find a way to travel all the time.
Find a way to travel all the time. You're going to have my job. 6 a.m. flights are tiresome after a while. But yes, I love traveling too, especially the vacation kind. So, oftentimes, I like to categorize goals into a couple different areas. Your finances, your career, your health and fitness, your personal relationships, and your overall happiness. And I find that just about anything you could possibly want fits in there somewhere. So if it's the dream car, it might be an overall happiness thing. But if it's better relationship with your family or more time with your family, that's a personal relationship thing. So you see how these things fit together. Now, if you want to double your income as an entrepreneur, because when you're starting, you're making exactly how much?
Nothing.
0. What's 2 times 0? Still 0. So we have to get a little bit more. But that's in the financial side or the career side. The career side, are you in your perfect job? So I really want you to get in touch with the things that are super exciting. What are the things that you dream about? And just start playing with the idea that it's possible for you to start getting there. Is that cool? So here's one of my big dreams. That idea of an international bestseller. In fact, the dream before that was bestseller. The dream before that was write the darn book and get it out there. Right? You're in touch with that one, right? So, here's the thing that's pretty amazing here. I did live this dream. This is a fresh dream. That #1 international bestseller is as of Monday. Okay, #1 international bestseller as of Monday. That's how fresh this is. So this is, it starts with a great book. You have to write a book that someone's going to want to read and want to buy. So that's the first part. Then you get into recognizing that, okay, I've got this book. That book, Act Now, that you see on the table back there, came out a year ago. I did absolutely nothing to market it because I was too darn busy. You guys relate? Yeah, and it wasn't a priority for me at the time because of some of the other things I had going on. Right, so that's where I focused my energy. But then it became, what do I do with this? It's time. It was only a few months ago where on the team we said, it's time, let's make it happen. So we had to figure out, how do we do that? I actually invested a lot of money in some courses to figure out what's the way, what's the process, how do people do this? Right, Bestseller Blueprint is one. Very creative title, How to Become a Bestseller is another one. Right? And you go through and you start learning these things. Because if you have a goal that's a pretty big, giant stretch, you might not have any idea what to do as step one to get there. Okay? I hired a coach. I had someone walk me through the steps, especially in the last 6 weeks. This is a big deal. And then I learned the system and followed the systems and expected a result to happen. And my expectations changed the more I learned and the more I knew. Because here's one thing that's true. When there's a system, whatever it is you're trying to do, the system, if it's working for other people, there is absolutely no reason why it can't work for you. In fact, it will work for you if you follow it. And that's what's really cool about this. So I expected that I was going to be #1 on Amazon. I totally 100% expected that. And then, a week before our launch, which was October 1st, because we had already hit #1 on Kindle, it was kind of bouncing up and down, and talking to another coach who was a friend of mine who was coaching me in this process, said, you go for international bestseller. And what do you think that little voice said at first? Well, I don't know about that one. Let's get one, right? Let's go get it. So here we are. There's over 8 million books on Amazon.com. How do I know that? Because I have one that's a children's book that I published for me, not with the idea of ever getting it out and selling it, but it is available on Amazon.com, and its position is number 8 million in something, because it's probably sold 0 ever, except to me on the day that I published it in the first place, right? That's how I know there's over 8 million books out there. But here it is on Kindle, hitting #1 there, Amazon.com. Look at these categories by it: family help, self-help, work-life balance. Here it is in England. This was what happened to us on Monday night, which was very exciting. Stress management, manager's manuals, business life. Amazon.ca, that's Canada, #2. And part of the reason it's not a #1 is look at the categories. Leadership. You know what the most competitive category you could possibly select for your book is? I'm thinking it's leadership. In England,
I think diets.
diet is, diet is up there. A lot of the self-help categories are up there. And I don't know what the number in Canada was. In England, there were over 21,000 titles in the leadership category. Oops. Picked the wrong category there. But here's what's awesome. You see this number here? In all of the millions of books, it hit number 74 of every book out there. It was only #2 because we didn't pick the right category. And number 74. Now, look at this. Amazon movers and shakers. There are all kind of categories on Amazon. I had no idea about some of these. I stumbled upon this one a little bit late because, I don't know if you can read that, but it says sales rank 113 was, we started the day at number 2,889,957 and made it all the way up to 74. Somehow, that's a 2.5 million % improvement. I don't even know the math on how to create what that % improvement is. But it's possible. Now I can go and say, I improved something, 2.5 million %. Think of those people who are trying to get a 5% productivity increase or 10% improvement in their rate of return, whatever. So anyway, that's pretty cool. Look at some of these other authors. Jim Lord, Ken Blanchard, Esther Hicks, Deepak Chopra, Oh, Jim Lore again. And now I'm starting to see things over on the right. Other categories I didn't know existed. Most gifted. People are giving this book away as a present. How cool is that? I like that. Now, here's number 2. But look who I'm sandwiched between. I love Richard Branson. He can have number 1, right? And here's a friend of mine, Anil Gupta, and he was number 3. And then over on top rated, he's number 1 on top rated. So we're kind of playing this game. Mind Gym. How many of you have ever seen or read or used Mind Gym? This is a fantastic classic book that just, exercises for your brain, keep you young. So there's a lot of good things. Now, it helps to have friends who want to help you. So here's Jack Canfield, and look at what this blog post is on October 1, which was the best launch day. Taking deliberate daily action. When my friend Pete Winiarski first showed me the proof copy of his book, Act Now, a Daily Action Log for Achieving Goals in 90 Days, I immediately thought this is the perfect tool to implement the success principles, which is one of his big books. This is a book I buy and give away to people, the success principles. The perfect tool. Holy cow, are you serious? Right? You think this helped me on? Yeah, absolutely. So all of these things that are happening because you start learning what to do. You start following the system. Have the guts to ask someone. Now, I do know Jack personally. He is a friend, and we talked about it and said, I'm happy to do it. So we did it. So that's how some of these things do work. By the way, the link to this blog on my Facebook page, the Pete Winiarski page. So facebook.com/Pete Winiarski page. And you can find, we got postings up all over the place, especially in the last 2 weeks, because we're doing all kinds of things. And this is one of them that's up there, so if you want to read the whole blog. So, pretty outrageous, #1 international bestseller. The message is it is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely possible. I don't care what your crazy goal might be, what that little voice is saying to you, you absolutely can do it. Any doubts? A couple smiles. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. We're all so busy. How many of you have more than one thing that you're interested in? More than one thing you spend time on. So now you have a choice to make, right? Do I want to go for that health and fitness goal? Do I want to go for that career goal? Which is it? Or you are into something for 6 months. Oh, shiny object. What's that one, right? And you're into something else, right? So that's one of the problems. Here's another problem. We think we don't have enough time to do all this stuff. Like, I'm so busy, how could I possibly set anything meaningful and go for it? But the truth is, we actually do have it. We have the same amount of time, the same amount of time as you do, right? And you, right, around the room. Same amount of time. Maybe we don't know the right way to set goals, because there is a right way and there's a wrong way. And a lot of people never learn to set goals in the first place, so they're kind of intimidating. Some people did because they were an athlete and they had goals in the track team when they were in high school or something, right? Maybe their parents set goals, but not many do. So we don't always learn it at home. So we get in the working world, maybe we end up in a sales job, and we're told, here's your sales quota. And you're like, ugh, what do I do now, right? And maybe you went through some training, but not everybody is doing this. And the other thing is we don't realize that there is power in the simple things that you could choose to do every single day. So you got to learn all of that. I'm going to continue drinking water, by the way. Is that okay with you? I was on a teleseminar last night. I was one of 2 speakers. The first person, for about a half hour, went 3 times the speed of light when they're speaking, and my voice was hoarse just listening. So I'm going to protect against that the best I can. So here's what happens. You feel overwhelmed because you're trying so hard, or you're trying to bust through, and you get all excited about the goals that are opening, the doors that are opening for you because of the goals you set, and you open the door and there's a brick wall. You're like, oh. And so you try harder, you either get tired and give up, or you try really hard and keep swinging that hammer harder and harder and harder, and eventually you break through and you're exhausted. Right? We don't like that, do we? But here's what I know to be true. And this is exciting. This is really good news. When people learn how to take whatever their massive goal is and break it into 90-day chunks, it's not so overwhelming anymore. That's the first thing to think about. When people become aware that there's more than one type of action, because I teach there's three. There's three types of action that you can do every day, not just one. And when you do all three, it actually speeds things up for you. You don't have to work as hard. You don't have the brute force. And then there's some strategies, some action strategies that you can put into place and turn the impossible into possible. Because nobody wants impossible. I want you to look at that list that you wrote down as some of your dreams and start getting excited about the possibility of what's there. So with that list of dreams, I want you to go in that box and write down your top goal for the next 90 days. Whatever that might be for you. No restrictions. Okay? While you're doing that, let me tell you a story. Here's story time. It's bedtime for some of us, right? Who's up past bedtime right now? Come on, really. Some of you are. Good for you. Thanks for coming out. The idea behind Act Now started with Pete as a marathon runner. Any runners in the room? Anyone ever run a marathon before? Okay, if you're a runner and you decide, I'm going to graduate from a 5K and go do a marathon, holy cow, you have a 6-month commitment ahead of you. That's a big deal, 26.2 miles. And I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I was a 3-mile runner, and I decided I'm going to run a marathon. I actually been flirting with the idea for a number of years, but kept getting hurt and whatnot. And so I would go out at 10 or 11 in the morning in July and start running with my 1 bottle of water, which was not quite as big as this one. And how far do you think I got before I was tired and thirsty and just, basically I did it all wrong. Did it wrong. There is a right way and a wrong way for a lot of things. If you can figure out what the right way is, follow that system, magic starts to happen. But what I learned, the right way included I joined a group, a running group, that was a marathon training group. There was a coach, there was the community, and we had a log book that we were using. And I would use that log book to track the runs and track all kinds of things. My sleep patterns, my eating, et cetera, et cetera. And in the end, I ran 4 marathons that year. It was awesome. So that's the marathon side of it. Then, part of who I am, I'm a life student. You're a life student because you're here. So congratulations. But I study this whole goal achievement and the science of success and self-improvement, all these things, and apply them to my business, apply them for my clients, all of this. And I've been doing that forever. And so some of the things that you become aware of over time are things that you should do on a daily basis, right? You ever heard anything that, do this on a daily basis? Right? There's probably 50 items on that list, right? There's lots of them. Well, I started to, as I'm doing with you, have this perspective that, wow, anything is possible. Absolutely anything, right? But the thing is, how do you get there? And it dawned on me one day that, it works so well for the marathons, this whole logbook idea. Why not experiment and try that out? And that's exactly what happened, and that's what became the book Act Now. So Act Now is the process that I actually do use and follow. I created this first for me through lots of trial and error. And so the book it's an overview if you look at the book. You know, it's about 200 pages long, but the first half of the book is the content of what to do and how to do it. The second half is 90 days of action log sheets. Right? 90 days, 13 weeks, boom, and you're there. How cool is that? And then Action Strategies is the program behind Act Now that goes into a tremendous amount of depth beyond what you can do in basically a book. There's a lot more to it. So think about your goal that you wrote down, and if 90 days is 13 weeks, it's actually, if you divide 90, it's 12.85 weeks. So you see this required weekly rate. If you have a numerical goal, so look, I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use myself. I'm going to make up numbers for the sake of illustration so that nobody gets nervous about their numbers. Let's pretend that I step on a scale and I don't like the number and I want to set a goal that's 12 pounds less than that number. I've got this 90-day goal, 12.85 weeks. Divide the gap by 12. That's how much progress you need to make on a weekly basis. So for me, in my example, if I want to drop 12 pounds in the 90 days, that's 1 pound per week. Does that suddenly sound doable? 12 pounds, ooh boy, that's, well, I don't know, that's a big number. How about 1 pound per week?
I tried that and it didn't work for me at all.
Now you got to do the rest of the stuff too.
I have been for 10 years, I've done that for 10 years.
Well, there's lots of
But I
things
didn't
we
use
can do
that
here.
method at all, completely different approach.
We could play with
Completely
this.
different. I don't even know what I'm doing, I get on the scale about once a year.
Or are you better off that way?
Yes,
Are
I
you
am.
happy? Then you don't get on the scale,
Because
do
I'm
a
not too
different goal.
compulsive, if I got on the scale, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Any of those people who get on the scale once per hour just to see what the number is? How did it change? All right. Let's pretend it's money. I want, in the next 90 days, I wanted $12,000 more revenue than what I currently have planned, and that's $1,000 a week. See how that works? Now, if it's not a numerical goal, you have to just get a sense of it. But the sense of it, what I'm trying to do, help you to chunk it down. Big goals into 90 days. 90 days into, well, how much would it be every week? What would I have to do? That's how that works. This is part of the foreword. Jack Canfield, who I mentioned, is a friend of mine. He agreed to write the foreword. And I mentioned the success principles. How many of you have read any of Jack Canfield's books before? Success principles, any of the Chicken Soup for the Souls? Okay, yeah. Power Focus, not familiar? Okay. Can't even begin to tell you how many titles. There's 150 Chicken Soup titles, so I mean, there's lots and lots and lots. There's a handful of different success principle titles. There's a lot there. But anyways, this is right out of the foreword, and he's talking about, apply the principles and you'll be amazed at the results that come to you when you do. And that's exactly what's been happening to me. I'm amazed at my results. The first thing here, writing the book using the process in the first place, and then using the process to actually get it up to that #1 bestseller. Clients, finding clients, closing multiple six-figure client deals, so that then there's consulting work for me to do, lots of those. Ideal body weight through lots of work, exercise, etc. Cool family vacations, as part of the celebration for hitting #1. We're on our way to Disney next Friday, a couple days from now. Continue to be really happy with how things are working out. This is what is cool, and these are the types of things I want for all of you to be able to achieve as well. So let's just talk quickly now about the process of getting there. And it starts with your dreams, right? We talked about that. And I had you write down that first goal, that most important goal for the next 90 days. And here's what will really make your goals sing. The secret is having a grasp of what your purpose is and what your passion is. And if you can figure that out, and then you can set goals that align in some way with your purpose and your passion, it's not work anymore. no matter how much you're doing, it doesn't feel like work anymore. Is that cool? So that's the trick. Figuring out your purpose. You know, I've done a number of exercises over years that are different life purpose type exercises, guided visualizations that I've done, and every time I get new insights. So this is a lifelong process. If you're sitting here right now saying, I don't know what my purpose is, then who cares? Forget it. Go to your passion. What do you love to do? Make sure that your goals align with your passion. Okay? That's how you can now have goals that'll just rock it. That's the start. So here are a couple examples for me. One of the things, passion-wise, I love live music. A couple musicians in the room. I love going to hear live bands play. And I just know that I could be tired and busy, but if I can break into my schedule and catch some live music, then all is well. It kind of re-energizes me. You guys have anything like that? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, maybe for you it's something else. Maybe it's a good book. One of you said, what would you rather be doing? Oh, I love a good book right now. You could do that. Go for a walk. Go spend time in nature. I had an accountability partner who their thing that they had to do every day was make sure they just spent 15 minutes in nature. They were one of the top real estate agents in the state of Wisconsin. You can just imagine how busy that person was. Managed to get 15 minutes doing something that aligned with her passion, right? Then the other thing here, one of the things that I know about my purpose from doing a lot of these life purpose exercises is sharing what I've learned is very, very important. So I have a goal here, write 2 books this year. Okay, Act Now doesn't count because I actually wrote it last year. The first book I wrote this year is a book called Win the Battle, and it's an ebook. It's available through our consulting website, Win Enterprises LLC.com. We're in conversation about whether we should publish that out to the world as opposed to just doing it in the ebook format. But that's only 1 out of 2, so I'm a little bit behind because it's October. So we'll see. Not so sure I'm going to stick with that one, but that would be a personal choice. I know that it aligns, though, with who I am. Okay, so that's how that works. Action plans. When you write the goal, each goal really needs to have an action plan behind it. Given what you know right now, what are you going to go do in order to get the goal? So in my case with that international bestseller, I didn't know how to make a book a bestseller. I had to go learn. So my action plan included going through some courses and doing some research and talking to people who have become bestsellers. I'm part of an organization called the Evolutionary Business Council. There are a lot of bestsellers in the EBC, which is really cool because that means it's a great resource to call up and network with some of these people. And we support each other, and we answer questions. And that's a step along the way. So action plans. Do whatever it takes. Write down the steps based on what you know now. You can always do a little bit more research. Come here to the library. Go visit Jenna. She loves to help people answer this question. I have this goal and I don't know what to do. Great. It's a way to start a conversation. Let's research it. What have other people done? Right? Because if there's a system to follow, right, it's easy. Figure out what the system is for your goal and start following it. And then we get into action. Because having a goal doesn't get you any closer to changing your results. Action strategies is what's needed to actually shift the level of results that you have. So how many of you right now, raise your hand if you are 100% totally satisfied with the results you have in your life right now? I'm not putting my hand up either. Right? So if I want different results, no matter what my goals are, I've got to get into action. Make sense? All right, cool. Now, here's a friend of mine. His name is Sean Gallagher. Sean Gallagher, I used to do an interview program where I would interview very super successful people and talk to them either about what some of their success principles were or their story so that I can inspire other people. I did that for about 3 years. I interviewed hundreds of people over that period of time. Sean Gallagher, when I met him, introduced himself as a fairly successful entrepreneur from Ireland. Come to find out, he was named one of Ireland's top 10 entrepreneurs. He actually ran for president of Ireland 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I think, and nearly won. He lost in the last weekend. Amazing. I spent some time with him a little while ago, about this time last year. And I love this quote from our interview. A man who waits for everything to be perfect before taking the next step will spend his entire life standing on one leg. Raise your hand if you're a perfectionist. There's a few, right? Including me. I'm guilty. But this is it. This is about action. You've got to get started. Take that next step. Now let me boil down in this framework for you how to take action in a way that will literally change your results. And this is the daily action. This is where it comes from. It starts with your intention. What is it that you intend to accomplish or achieve today? Then your planned actions. This is the same type of idea of following through on your action plan, right? What is it I plan to do? Then, the daily habits, the second type of action. Following through on the daily habits is a huge advantage. And then, thirdly, the inspired action. So, inside your sheet here, you see the 3 types of action, 1, 2, and 3. Planned actions, daily habits, and inspired actions. And what I'm noticing I skipped was for you to write down 3 planned actions for that first goal that you wrote. Just think about that for a moment. Based on what you know right now, what actions could you take towards that 90-day goal that you wrote down? And just jot those down. So that goes in the top box, and then the 3 types of action, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more depth here, but planned action, daily habits, and inspired actions. Okay, let's talk about intentions. The idea of an intention is very simply giving yourself the bullseye for the day. What is it that I want to achieve or experience today? And that's a daily intention. You could have an intention for an event, like coming here tonight. How many of you had thought deliberately in your mind before arriving here, here's what I want to get out of tonight? You don't have to say what it was, but who actually thought that? Fantastic. That was about 20% of the room. Right? So that's the first part of that circle that will change your result. Hold an intention. Have clarity in your mind. Clarity in your brain is like superfood. Okay? The brain loves clarity so much that once it has it, it knows what to do. And it's your unconscious brain that's running the show. Your unconscious mind is what's running the show, not the conscious decisions that you make, in your alert awareness. It takes time for your conscious mind to start shifting and teaching your unconscious mind what to do. This intention is part of that process. So for example, I've come to meetings like this, and how many of you have done this, where you said, tonight, you might not have used these words, but tonight my intention is to learn something that is going to make a difference in my business or my life or my career or my fill in the blank. Or how many of you said, my intention is to meet someone who I can end up having some type of working relationship with that's going to help accelerate my business further. Or, and you can continue to fill in the blanks. My intention is I'm going to go and I'm just going to enjoy myself. I'm going to relax and enjoy learning. Those are all possible intentions. Intention for the day, for me, oftentimes, is an outcome I want. Like if I have a big meeting, for the meeting to go the way I want it to go, I actually decide that in my mind. I have an intention for that meeting, or important phone call, or presentation like here, you know, that this goes well, and I know what well looks like because I tell myself what well looks like. Oftentimes, my intention is, I'm going to have a relaxed day because I'm on the go, right? I'm on the go and things are pressured and yes.
Does your word intention encompass the word visualization?
Visualization is coming.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Start with what is it you intend to create for a result or an experience? What is it you intend to create for a result or an experience? Having that clarity for the day, for the hour, for the meeting, for the presentation, for the networking event, for the trip to the library where you're trying to figure out what my steps ought to be in my action plan. What's my intention? Perfect lead-in question, Pat. Thank you very much. So now, we're going to get into the 3 types of actions. First, the planned action is very simply starting with that big goal that you have, you know, maybe a 3-year out, 5-year out goal, something long-term. Chunk it down. So therefore, what should it be this year? And therefore, what should it be in 90 days? And therefore, what should it be this week? And every day, the planned actions from a daily standpoint is based on where I am right now. With everything I know my plan, I know my weekly progress rate, I know if I'm ahead or behind. What do I need to do today? Those are your planned actions. And the idea, this rule of 5, which I have learned from Jack Canfield, Jack Canfield's rule of 5 is basically every day, do 5 things that are aligned with your most important goal. Now those 5 things do not have to be 5-hour-long activities. They could be 5 relatively quick things. You know, if you're a person who's in sales, last night the call I was on was with a network marketing company. So these are people who are trying to get out there and meet people. And you know, 5 things for them might be 5 phone calls. You're a salesperson, 5 phone calls, right? Very simple. Those 5 phone calls might take you 5 minutes if nobody answers the phone, so you have to be careful what you decide those 5 actions be. If it's 5 conversations, that's different than picking up the phone and dialing a number to a voicemail, right? So 5 conversations might lead you to have, 10 phone calls, or following through on appointments that you've previously scheduled, right? That's how that could work together. And the story comes from, even the largest tree in the forest will eventually fall if you hit it with an axe 5 times a day. Eventually that tree will come down, right? Make sense? Now we talk about the daily habits. And here's where we get to answer Pat's question about visualization. Daily habits. Remember, I mentioned that there are, hundreds of these things that we know we should do every day. How many of you brush your teeth at least once a day? Raise your hand. Good, because it's a habit, right? It's probably not on your checklist any longer. So if we can get things that are such habits for us, working on our behalf, that we don't have to put them on our checklist any longer, we're winning the game, right? That's where we want to be. We want everything you do that's important to be like brushing your teeth. All right? And let me mention that what these are very important activities to do on a daily basis that for some scientific reason, either biology or quantum physics, will help you. You guys buy into that? Some reason they will help you. Now, how many of you are the type of folks who want to know why they work? Raise your hand. Just admit it. A few of you. And how many of you, if you knew it worked, didn't really care why, you're just happy about it? Okay? Interesting. So the 2/3 of you are that way, the other third want to know why. It's okay to be in either camp. But let me say this. Some of you, I've had people answer this question. If Jenna were to go and turn the light switch, why does the light go on or off? Do you know why?
Wired that way.
It's wired that way, which is a really good answer actually from this illustration. But technically, what's going on with the electrons and the wiring? And You really know, or do you know that when I turn the switch, the light's going to come on, when I turn the switch, the light's going to go off? That's the level of understanding that you need to put this to work for you on your behalf in your life. If you're interested, you can learn more about it. There are loads of books that talk about biology, the brain chemistry that goes on, the reticular activating system that's part of your subconscious brain, your unconscious mind, that acts as a filter and attempts to protect you from things that are not important. Okay, these are all real things that are happening. Okay? Most of us don't care. If you do care, you can find out more about it. But if you don't, just know that you can get to work on it. Here's a guy who cares.
I got a question about this.
Yes, sir.
I believe all these things are going on, and I used to be in the camp where I needed to know what was going on. Then I switched that in recent years. I switched to where I don't want to know, because when I know I'm getting my brain in there, and whatever that energy is from the universe or our power, whatever you want to call it, it's gotten in the way. So, and so I'm really limiting myself by thinking John's thought instead of whatever is a bigger idea or a bigger thing that's out there. But what about prayer and meditation and that as a daily habit?
Let's go there. Thank you.
What about that?
Perfect. Let's talk about what I have put on the list and recommend as the minimum daily habits to follow. And let's see what comes up on the list, and then we'll come back to your questions. All right, so I'm going to rapid fire these. Now and then I'll leave the list up. In the box here, you can write them down. Okay, you can write them down as we go. And Pat's question about visualizing, here is the answer. Visualizing is one of those daily habits. Having a clear picture in your mind of the outcome you want. Having a clear picture in your mind of the goal that you have set, already achieved right now. What does it look like? And inject all of the emotions. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What do you see? What do you hear? Who's there? And the emotion is extremely critical to this. How do you feel as a result of achieving that most important goal that you set and you decided was most important for you? Are you excited? Are you ecstatic? When I was visualizing international bestseller, you think I was pretty pumped? Yeah. And it only takes a few seconds to do this after you've done it the first time or two. You get the picture. How many of you have a favorite photograph of a person? Could you describe it right now, sitting here in this room? You know what that photo looks like? But it's not here, is it? Same is true with this visualization exercise. So this is one of those exercises that works on your unconscious, that I talked about with reprogramming the reticular activating system. And so does affirmations. Affirmation is a phrase, it's a word or a statement that supports the picture that you just created. So if I create a picture in my mind of international bestseller, the type of picture that I create is the type that I put in those graphics, those screenshots of #1 on Amazon in that #1 position. Okay? I imagine that happening. When I'm ready for New York Times, I'll imagine it on the New York Times list. People will actually go and cut out the title of their book and paste it, right? Yep. You want a certain amount of money in your bank account, you print out your bank account statement, and you paste, copy and paste, the number you want. That's visualizing. And then you look at that every single day. Affirmation is what you say to yourself about the picture. Next, expressing appreciation and gratitude. And let me tell you why this is so important. We tend to either attract things that are good for us, things that will help us, things that support us, things that we need to be successful, or we push them away. And to illustrate why this is so important, think of someone who's in that mood. You know the mood. Nothing's going right, and they're all in this pissy, and they're complaining. Well, if that person is in that type of a frame of mind, nothing good is going to land in their lap. Because even the things that are trying to get in, they don't see them, they don't recognize them, and they're probably pushing away. If I'm a person, I came up to someone who was in that type of an attitude, it's not going to take me that long to decide, right? I'm going to go the other way because I don't want that stuff. Right? So appreciation and gratitude is being grateful, first of all, for what you have already. You're not coming from a place of lack. You're coming from a place of, I'm awesome, my life is awesome, everything's awesome, this is all working. So we want to put that in place, because now more comes to you, right? Again, who cares why? What's the biology, what's the quantum physics, law of attraction, all this stuff? That's not why we're here tonight. You can do that some other night. Talk about those details. If you trust that when you turn the light switch on, the light goes on, that's what's happening when you do these things. Okay, the next one on the list happens to be meditation, which is one of the things John asked about. You know, and I'll lump prayer into this, but I'll distinguish how they're different. Okay? Prayer is not on the list that I've chosen to put on here, but if it's important to you because of whatever your religious background and beliefs are, then do it. I know some people who every single day they have their daily devotions. They open up whatever their book is, and there's 30 minutes of reading and contemplating, and they're all related. Okay? But let me talk specifically about meditation and why it's important. Raise your hand if you're busy. Raise your hand if you'll have a lot to do. Raise your hand if you have people who live in the same house as you. Raise your hand if you have people who work with you. Raise your hand if you have requests that come at you from all sides. Raise your hand if you ever have an idea. Raise your hand if you can't go fast enough to get all the ideas done. What are you doing with that brain which is boom, 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 all the time? You have to find a way to calm it down. And that's what meditation does for you. You can do something as simple as close your eyes and just observe your breath going out and in and out and in, and consciously slow down your breathing for a couple minutes. And that has an effect of quieting your brain down. You can do it for longer, and it has even more of an effect of getting your brain so quiet that now, when these little ideas that you never heard before are whispering in your ear, you can actually hear them. How cool is that? Now, I listen to guided visualizations. I put on the old earphones, and I click on my iPad or my iPhone, iPod, some Apple device. We'll give Apple credit, and I just listen. And you know what happens? A lot of times. Any guess? I have the best nap ever. I have the best 15-minute nap I could possibly have. And so, you are actually getting the benefits of meditation when you think you just fell asleep. But I also have this habit in, which is journaling. Excuse me. Because in that 15-minute nap that I just had, when I open my eyes, and I'm feeling a little drowsy still, I pick up the pen and I just start writing whatever comes to mind. And you want to talk about gold. You want to talk about the golden ideas. You want to talk about the insights that crack the problems that you're struggling with. Do these two things back to back. In fact, you can do them all in this order and only spend 15 or 20 minutes doing it. How cool is that? Anyone journal in this room? Good. You know, journaling is a great way just to get whatever's in your head out. There's stuff in your head you don't know is in your head. You don't know it's there. Let it come out. Let it get on paper. Once it's on paper, you get to decide what to do with it. You can throw it in the garbage. You can put it on your to-do list. You get to decide. But then at least you have an opportunity to have cleared it out of the way. So now your brain can be attentive and work on your behalf. Making sense? Is that cool? All right. Reading. Anybody ever heard reading's good for you? Raise your hand. Come on, only some of you? 4 or 5, there you go. We'll throw the obvious ones in there for you too. And exercising. I'm not going to say why reading and exercising are good other than it keeps your brain young and exercise, there's fitness. I mean, think of the body that you have is going to make or break all of your goals. So if you don't have energy, and you could add sleeping to the list too, but that's like brushing your teeth. Hopefully you do that occasionally. Right? The things that take care of your body are also very important. And this next one is broadly, I call practice letting go. And letting go is in quotes because there's actually an awful lot of things that can fit into here. And what I mean by letting go is, remember earlier I mentioned, you ever been with that person who's just like, nah, 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 nah. Think of the times when you're that person. Because you are. We all are. And when that happens, it prevents us from playing at the top of our game. It prevents us from being able to see opportunities. It prevents us from having really good connection with other people. It prevents us from being able to perform anywhere near what we are capable of. So when we're talking about, our sanity for one, but also the goals that we set that are very important to us, if that's where you are a lot of the time, good luck. It's not going to work out very well. So the idea of letting go is figuring out how to recognize when you're just in that mood and letting it go, literally. Dropping the issue, moving on, and just now picking up where you left off. And there's a number of methods and techniques. Journaling and meditating are some of them. So you could actually go in that frame of mind where you're actually now journaling or meditating as a way. If you're stuck on something, you're angry, you can, if you're angry at a person, you could handwrite a letter to that person and pour all your emotion into that on why you're so mad or upset or whatever, and then throw the thing away. Or burn it in case you're worried that someone's going to go through the garbage. But it's, you let it go, it's gone. And there's other methods. All the way on one end of the spectrum are things like neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, RIM, which is the rim between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. And those are exercises that you need a guided facilitator to walk you through. But everything in between counts. And there's some very simple techniques that you can do to let stuff go. EFT, anyone familiar with emotional freedom technique? Tapping, right? Tapping methodology. That's a very simple and powerful way to learn to let go. So lots of things like that. And then, because we all have things that are important to us, one of my goals, optional daily habits, is to have 8 of these, 8 glasses of water, right? Because I know I need to stay hydrated. Okay, that's one example. If you are learning to play the piano, what might a good optional habit be? Practice. Play for 10 minutes, play for 30 minutes, you decide. But whatever it might be, if you want to learn tennis, you want to learn to swim, I'm sure you've heard this. Reading's important, but you're not going to learn to swim if all you do is read books about how to swim. You better get in that pool. I mean, that's the point there, the optional habit. Now we'll talk about inspired actions. Where do you think these come from? To illustrate what an inspired action is, I love this story. Who's familiar with the song Yesterday by the Beatles? Love the song, yes? Cool song that almost never happened. Almost never happened because Paul McCartney got up and he woke up in the morning, he had the song running through his head. And he went over to the piano and just basically played it. He said, wow, that's beautiful, but that's not a Beatles song. We're a rock band. We are not going to get caught dead playing that. And he withheld it from the other Beatles for quite a long time before eventually it came out and ended up on one of the albums. He nearly rejected it, and that's what we sometimes do. The idea of inspired action is listening to this crazy idea, intuitive hit, moment of inspiration, that light bulb that goes off, even when it doesn't make any sense. Okay? Our logic, our conscious mind, that little voice inside of us will talk us out of lots of things that are actually going to help us tremendously. It's just part of what happens. So we need to learn to trust the little voice. And once we trust the little voice, we actually have to do something in terms of action because we don't get anything accomplished until there's the action. So where do these intuitive hits come from? Well, it starts with the daily habits. And because we're following the daily habits, all of these light switches that you're turning on are starting to have benefit. We're attracting the people or the resources, or we're noticing the people and resources that were always there, but we never noticed them before. Or the ideas are starting to pop in. You know, our unconscious mind is starting to work on our behalf towards where we want to go, as opposed to keeping us where we've always been. All of these things are starting to happen. And that's the science of success part, the biology or the quantum physics. The science is there. Whether you understand why it is, doesn't matter. Trust that it's there, and then ta-da, you get that intuitive hit, that light bulb moment. And then it's up to you, as fast as possible, to act on it. Now, it's not always possible to do it the same day. I've had these guided visualizations that I listen to, meditating. I've had a person's face that I know and haven't talked to in a while pop into my mind and my awareness, clear as day. That's an intuitive hit if I ever saw one, right? So what do you think the action might be? Call them. Yeah, reach out. Now, I'm not always able to do it the same day, but within the next 2 days, maybe 1 day, you bet I'm calling that person or sending them an email. And I don't even know why, right? Other than to say, hey, I was thinking about you, haven't talked to you in a while, wanted to say hello. Does that sound like a hard conversation? Perfectly valid conversation. And then you just see what happens. I've had the intuitive hit to show up here on a Wednesday night session before, where I was like, do I want to go to that? I don't know, it looks interesting, but I've got a lot to do, blah, 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 right? You guys have that argument every single day about something. And on this particular day, I just felt that strong pull. Like I had to be here that night. And that night, so I sat in the audience the way you are, I met someone else in the audience in the networking session that I was talking to afterwards, that we had some similarities in our background, and we ended up working together for about a year. How cool is that? Because I was looking for a resource, and that person was available. Okay? That was a pull. Would that have happened otherwise? Obviously not, because I wouldn't have been here. Right? You have to follow through and just trust it, lean into it, and see where it goes. Think you can do that?
You know what, on that one, I hate to say something else, but you know what? On that one, there's a 4-letter word that comes in there sometimes that gets in the way.
What's that?
Fear.
Fear.
Because you know what? There's some people out there, and I'm one of them, and what happens is, there's part of me, it's not even conscious, it's probably like, I don't deserve that. Okay? Or I can't call them because of this. Or I can't go for this because of this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a voice that comes in, and it's not true, but it's like it's a fear. It's a fear. It's like, whatever. It's like it's a sense of lack or deprivation or something like that. And this gets in the way, and it's almost like there's something like it sucks out the energy. You get this brilliant thought. I have a lot of thoughts drive people nuts. Maybe like 30 of them. I'm saying them out loud drive people nuts. Maybe 3 of them are brilliant. Okay?
Yeah. So
So something gets in the way. And it's like, you know what? I've learned over time, I can't really do anything about that. What I can use is some of the other tools that you've already mentioned. I can make use of some of those tools. But I've learned that to try to fight that and not have it happen is a waste of time.
So is fear a real human emotion? Sure. Is fear sometimes an unnecessary emotion? Yeah. Where does fear come from? Well, something's going on in your unconscious mind that triggers, fundamentally we get to fight or flight when there's some stressful thing. Well, the unconscious mind, one of its jobs is to keep you safe. And it will create the sensation that we label called fear. It comes from somewhere below the surface. It is some belief that we have. Some of what you described, John, was having to do with, maybe I'm not good enough or I don't deserve that. Let me tell you another secret. Every single person on this planet, even the most successful ones, have some color of I'm not good enough or I don't deserve this. The more successful ones find a way to manage it. The less successful ones find a way to be stopped by it. Go ahead.
I have a good management quote you can post in front. I have it on my desk because it makes so much, it's so powerful. And it's, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them.
There you go. You bet.
That's powerful.
Yes, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. You bet. You cannot perform at a results level beyond your level of your belief. And so, how you work through that, these daily habits can get you a long way towards eliminating some of those blockages. It's not the whole game. You know, working with someone to actually work through, especially with beliefs, doing belief work, you know, there's a number of things you can do to actually rewire beliefs so that you have all of the memories that you have without the negative impact. So, there's a lot to it. Beliefs is a big, juicy area. This juicy area came up last night on the call. You know, Pete, what do we do when? And you know, there was a pretty big discussion about it because it's a big deal. Your level of performance will be a result of the habits you put in place. It's also a result of the beliefs that you hold. Many of the beliefs you hold, you do not even know what they are. You will not be able to write them down. But if you want to know whether you have a belief, look at your results and ask yourself, for someone with this level of results versus what I want, what must my beliefs be? And guess what? You start to get a lot of insight, some of them not so happy. So when you get an intuitive hit, because you will get them, you're getting them today, you're getting them right now, you may not be able to hear them because you haven't put your unconscious mind and your conscious mind working in a harmonious way in order to hear them. The daily habits will get you there. Implement it as quickly as possible. And how long has this happened? You've got the logical answer, you know, ready to duke it out with the intuitive answer. I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. I've been driving when all of a sudden I get the intuitive hit to take a left. Well, but home is straight, right? Take a left. I follow it. I don't know why. Maybe there's an accident up ahead. Who knows? I may never know. But I trust it. Whatever it is, I learn to trust it. So think about this. Just ponder this for a moment. How many times have you allowed the logical answer to win out over the intuitive answer? Ever? A lot of heads are nodding here. Yeah. And what has it cost you? You ever hear the $1 million idea? How many of you have had ever the $1 million idea? Every single hand in this room should go up. You may not have been aware of it. Here's the good news. You're going to get another one probably tonight, maybe tomorrow. Okay? Because that's how frequently they come. The problem is we talk ourselves out of them or we don't hear them in the first place. And that $1 million idea is not meant to be that the only thing that matters is financial, but it's a label that we all recognize. You know, that breakthrough idea that's going to get you to whatever your goal is. That's what we're talking about here. I almost blew my story. So you remember earlier I talked about one of my passions being music. I want to illustrate intuitive hits and inspired actions. I had that 6 a.m. flight. 6 a.m. flight means I'm up at 3:30 in the morning. That's early, right? Okay, so I fly, I land, I'm at the client all day long. It's about 6 o'clock. I'm grabbing a bite to eat in town before checking into the hotel, just a couple blocks over. There's a pizza restaurant I like to go to, and in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's packed. What's going on? Oh, well, Maroon 5 is in town tonight. I'm like, oh, really? No kidding. Pull out my iPad. Tickets, nothing. Meanwhile, I'm like, well, it's probably okay because, I got up at 3:30. I'm pretty beat. I'm tired. I really need to sleep. That would be the better answer. And as I'm checking into the hotel, a little voice says, ask how you can get tickets. So, any idea how I can get a ticket to the night's show? I say, well, how many do you need? I say, well, it's just me. Goes behind the counter, opens up a drawer, and hands me a ticket. I'm like, well, what do I owe you? Nothing. It's for you. The show starts in 15 minutes. You better get going. So now I'm like, I guess I'm not going to sleep. And I don't really care. This is gonna be great. So I dumped my stuff in the room. I quickly went online because where's the seat? And this is where that seat was. Wrong button. There we go. I am in the first row on the side, just above all of the people who had floor seats, so I can see over them. This was awesome. This was fantastic. This little voice, out of the blue, I easily could have talked myself into getting a good night's sleep. By the way, 2 days later, I was doing a keynote on Act Now. This is a big deal. This is a big company. This is a big client. I'm not going to screw this up. This is a really big meeting these next couple days. I did this anyways. Absolutely. Who cares about sleep when you're living your passion, right? That's true for me last week with that international bestseller stuff going on. I was up pretty darn late taking screenshots and promoting and being online and all the stuff that goes with it, because it's a pretty constant exercise. So that was really cool. Let me talk about the log sheets briefly. I mentioned that the second half of Act Now is all action logging for 90 days. It's the daily action log to achieve your goals in 90 days. Well, here you go. Here's what they basically are. Too small to read. I recognize that and I appreciate that. Let's not even try. The point is, all of the elements are there. The intention, the daily habit, the planned actions. What are those 5 things I plan to do today? The inspired actions, either that you took or that you are going to take tomorrow. And then any lessons and insights. One of my lessons very early on is do the daily habits early in the day. Some of them I want you to do, like I want you to visualize your goals twice a day, before bed and when you wake up. Well, that's easy to do, if you have them, right? And then the weekly is, there are check marks. Let me just go back. There's check marks all over this. Did it, check, did it, check, did it, check, did it, check. And you tally them up. So at the end of the week, you get a score. There's scorekeeping. Summarize the insights from last week, and then what are your goals for next week? Because remember, we're chunking it down into weekly chunks. So given how far I've gotten up to this point, this might be week 5. So am I 5 out of 13 or 5 out of 12 of the way there? So what do I need to set for goals next week? Boom, that's going to dictate my planned actions next week. Because you're going to do the daily habits every day, and the inspired actions are going to come from whatever those ideas are, those light bulb moments. That makes sense? Now, I mentioned a couple resources. I just want to tell you what they are real quick, because I promised to do that. And the first one is Action Strategies. Action Strategies is an in-depth course. The book is the overview. Action Strategies is super deep. 6-week course, 14 videos, all kinds of other resources, taking you by the hand, etc. This is the thing that will enable your results to change by following the system. So this is the link, and I know you already wrote it down. What I'm asking you to do is at least get the story by watching that video. Watch the video about Action Strategies. Registration for this course, the course starts Monday. We're closing registration Sunday night. So if it's something you're interested in, you can go there, watch the video, and then register. The second thing is tomorrow, I'm actually doing a webinar, similar topic, but it is different from what we did tonight. And that is the 10 steps to make any goal a reality in 90 days. So if you like that idea of having a goal be real for you in 90 days, there are 10 steps. I'm going to tell you what they are tomorrow. And that, to register for that, dailyactionlog.com/webinar. And I actually have, because that's a free thing, I actually have a sheet here. And if you're interested, do us the favor, just go ahead and pass this around. There's a few sheets of paper in there, so there's plenty of lines for everybody. You don't even have to go to that link to sign up, to register. Just go ahead and put your name here, and we'll put you on the list for tomorrow.
What time is that at?
Well, the 1 o'clock, Kel? Yeah. So it's live at 1, and then the replay will be up, so that if you can't make it live, you can end up watching the replay afterwards. We'll have the replay up, I think, until Sunday, and then we'll pull that down.
So how would you access the replay?
I'm going to share a link to you. So the link to go to the webinar is what we'll email you. And then once it's over and the replay is up, we'll send you an email saying the replay is up and here's how to get it.
So should I still send it to you?
If you want to, yeah, if you want to come, in order to get into it, you have to do that. Yes. Very good, thank you. So I mentioned this event in Grand Rapids, and what's really cool is you get to meet some awesome people. Who knows who Lou Holtz is? So Coach Holtz, I was the keynote speaker at lunch, he was the keynote speaker at dinner. And what an awesome guy. Lou Holtz. Meeting him, we had some private time in the back, we had a conversation. He is so gracious. He wanted to know all about Act Now, he wanted to know about the book. He asked me questions about it, and then he wanted me to sign it for him. Awesome. I'd love to. How do you want me to address it? Coach? He's like, no, call me Lou. Lou? How cool is that? Lou Holtz wants me to call him Lou. So I called Lou Holtz Lou, and I wrote in his book. And that was really cool. So I have a question. I have a book here, and I'm willing to sign it for whoever wants it. Who wants it? So who wants this book? Who wants this book?
Action.
All right, there you go. Let me sign it for you right now. How's that? You guys getting the lesson here? What did we talk about for the last hour? Uh-huh.
That
And
was beautiful.
what was the intuitive hit that you got?
I just knew. I just knew.
That's what an intuitive hit is. You just know. And what's the difference, right? Who's got the book? The one who took the inspired action. What's your first name?
Susan.
Susan. S-U-S-A-N?
Yes.
All right. There you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Susan.
Excited.
Did everyone learn a lesson?
Absolutely.
I hope so. Right? You can have any result you want, but you have to do something to get it. And I want to just share this one last quote that this is from a Facebook email, the messaging within Facebook from a friend of mine. And this person, April, has been using the book for quite a while. And during the whole last basically week and a half, a lot of activity on Facebook. Still a lot of activity on Facebook with the webinar and action strategies, registration, boom, 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 boom. I mean, my goodness, it's really flying. So I get this note from her, which is just, this is why the book is out there. I said I created it first for me as a way to kind of document what I do. And then after I figured out what works, I then put it in the book to get it out there for other people to benefit from it. And this is why I wrote the book. Hello, Pete. I do hope your book sales are soaring. This book is changing my life, and I know it can do the same for others. That's why we're here tonight, because I want this process that I've figured out and I'm sharing to work for you. So hopefully you got enough out of this that you can put something to work. And with that, I'll end it, and I will stay as long as people have questions. I've got the pen. You saw it work for Susan. If anybody else wants one, I'm happy to sign the book.
Part of the success of this journal, a lot you have that book, lost these habits and all of that. Can you achieve the results without the logging?
Once, I want to repeat the question, make sure everyone can hear. There's a lot of logging and journaling and whatnot. Can you achieve the results without that? And so there's two things that I want to say. One, I almost forgot. First is that the action log sheets, the second half of the book, they are available online. Okay? I would love it if people, every person on the planet bought 4 books a year, one for every 90 days, and they just kept going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Maybe not so practical. So those forms, all of the exercises, the goal forms, the action plan forms, the action log sheet forms that we looked at, are available on dailyactionlog.com. You put in your email there, we send you a link so that you can get them. And that, I think, is, oh it is, great. On that, the last part of the threefold sheet, it says, yes, I want the Act Now resources from dailyactionlog.com, and put in your name and email. You can go there on your own afterwards if you forgot. But if you tear off this last 1/3 of the paper like this, and you turn it in to Kelly or Jen in the back, and you put your name and email with a check in that box, we'll just put you on the list, and you'll get an email with the links so that you can download all these PDFs. By the way, there's also 3 training videos that are there that you'll get over the course of about a week and a half or so. And there's an order sheet for some of the discounted prices. On the other side, we do these events because people invite us. And so if you know anybody who wants to have me come and speak to your organization, go ahead and make an introduction. This is how we get to do things like this. And then the other box, the testimonial, if there's something you loved about tonight, you want to write that down, tell me about it, tell us about it. We love these things. So I almost forgot about telling you about that resource, so the question reminded me. Once you get into a routine, you can stop writing it down. Okay? As a coach, when I'm coaching people, as a consultant, when I'm working with business clients, there are points in time where I don't have to tap them on the shoulder anymore. This process, the writing part, is tapping you on the shoulder. So think of you have children, anyone? Getting them to brush their darn teeth. And how many years before you don't have to say, did you brush your teeth? Oh yeah? Well, I just checked your toothbrush and it's dry. My kids are 10 and 12. I'm still saying that, right? So, at some point, you're brushing your teeth without being told because it's working for you. Your teeth look good, you don't have cavities, you're flossing, you don't have bad breath. People love talking to you from 2 inches away, right? And if that's the case, you don't have to worry about someone tapping you on the shoulder to tell you to do that anymore. I'm not saying it's going to take you 12 years. I'm going to admit something to you, that there are times that I am using the process and there are times that I am not. Largely because I'm doing a lot of the process without writing it down at this stage. However, I will also share that when I am using the process and when I am actually going through and writing the plan down and putting the check marks, first of all, I will make a deliberate choice to do it when there's something really important for me, where I'm really focused. Okay, like I mentioned, I have the goal for 2 books this year. I'm going to make a choice probably within a month to go for it or not. And if I go for it, you bet I'm using the process, because that's the only way I'm going to get there. And I've proven that to myself time and time again. When I use the process, my results are much greater than when I'm not. I'm still doing a lot of the exercises, goal setting, planning, all of the daily habits. Certainly in inspired action, I've learned to follow through and I trust my intuition. Light bulb goes off and there I go. But I'm not always writing it down. You get to choose when to try it. I do encourage you to try it. You get to choose when to stop. And if it's not getting you the results you want, start up again. If you want to stop, stop. And just play. Everything in life is a game. We're just playing the game of life. Let's see what works. Experiment. If it works, great. By the way, if something's working, do it. If something's not working, don't do it. It's really that simple. love the question, thank you. Yes?
My question is, why 90 days? And what I mean by that is, I'm sure there's something to the 90 days, but sometimes you have goals that are much shorter or much longer, and obviously you can implement the process, but why 90 days?
Yeah, so the idea of 90 days, a lot of times people set a goal for the year. And the thing about a year-long goal is there's an awful lot that happens over the course of 12 months. And it's pretty easy to lose focus somewhere along the line. So my decision was, let's shorten it up and be less than 12 months. You could take your 12-month goals and set them into monthly chunks, which is kind of like the same idea that progress, 1/12 of the way every month is what you need to get there for the end of a year. But it's almost sometimes too hard to go there. So a little bit of experimenting. The idea of 90 days, I come out of business. I was an executive. Companies run on quarterly reports, right? So a quarter of the year, 90 days, seemed to work extremely well. And that, in my experimenting with it, taking a year down to a quarter was somewhat of a natural process. You can still set goals that are 4-week goals and accomplish them and set another one. And accomplish that and set another one. What I would suggest is that you're probably doing that towards something that you want to achieve in the 12-month or the 90-day period.
Got it.
Good, thank you. Who else? I like this.
Are they going to throw us out? Is the library closed enough?
Sorry?
Are they going to throw us out? Is it 8:30?
Yes, Jenna is the bouncer. She's going to throw you out.
Well, I do have one question. You know what that is? You mentioned an accountability partner. Now, I work this kind of stuff in another way. You know what? I have an action partner that I report to every day, and I have an action group, because otherwise I can't stay on task with these things. And in fact, you know what? My goals, I don't even come up with them. An action group, I go to them, they come up with the list. I don't even trust myself to list them. I'll just come up with all kinds of stuff.
So you have a process that works for you, that in your game of life you experimented with. I do, part of what's in chapter 3 talks about, well, maybe it's chapter 2, but talks about accountability partners and mastermind teams, because this process, working with someone else, if you and I were partners, and I was saying, here's what I want in 90 days, what do you want in 90 days? And here's what I'm planning to do today, what are you planning to do today? And you have a 3-minute conversation. How powerful that is, especially if we're doing it together.
Yeah,
So I describe it.
That's really good, because you might catch me out of my own head, because I'm just sitting there by myself. I got a zillion self-help books all around the place. You know what? That didn't work for me. How could I get another person involved in things? And when I did that, I could get out of my own way.
There you go.
But it's not different than what you're doing. It's using what you're doing, the techniques that you're using. You know what I mean? It's not like you put this together, but these are things that are out there. It's like you found what you said, you wanted to have a goal. You found the way to go for what you're presenting.
Well, congratulations on finding something that works for you. And
And I can use what you're using to help them do that.
to augment it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Yes. There you go.
Anyone else?
There you go.
What's that? You want to sign? All right. Why don't I officially say we are finished? And I'll take your note.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.